Every civilization leaves behind echoes. Some are carved in stone, others survive only in memory. Welcome to Forgotten Worlds. I am Larry Johnson. Enter the archive and discover the worlds waiting to be remembered. The archive is open. Come with me as the archive of Forgotten Worlds explores a place that stands beyond history. Can a civilization survive only in the archive? Within these records are civilizations that archivists have only begun to investigate. Their histories were never carved into the stones of our world. Instead, they remain buried within the archive itself. These forgotten records speak of what might be called a post-history, a mysterious present preserved only through the archive's memory. Among those records is a civilization whose traces are as elusive as Plato's Atlantis, yet whose world is described with such remarkable detail that archivists can begin to reconstruct its geography, its cities, and perhaps even the people who once lived there. What if memory itself became the archaeological site? Today, we again enter the world the archive calls Terra Arcanis. What this strange world reveals about ourselves is a puzzle archivists are still trying to understand. So let us begin this unfinished excavation and discover what the archive remembers. We ended our last journey searching for traces of a people we could no longer see, the Aethelari. But they were not the last people of Terra Arcanis. Another civilization followed. The archive calls them Arcanians. Unlike the Aethelari, we don't have to reconstruct the Arcanians from fragments. We can see them. Part 1. What is an Arcanian? What does this phenotype tell you? Look. Male. This is an external image provided by the archive. Look. Female. And an elder or an archivist from the era we are exploring. You see, Arcanians in form resemble in many ways ourselves. Male, female, many different ages, and professions. Here is an example of what was called an arbiter. And here, an Arcanian, what they called a virithe. As you can observe, the pigmentation of an Arcanian ranges along the brown-bronze spectrum. Their eyes, too, can range from caramel brown to mahogany brown, and sometimes, as we observe, brilliant blue, which is an intriguing topic for another time about what the Arcanians call the virithe. We have examined what the archives revealed about the external nature of an Arcanian. They seem very human, don't you think? But that is where their apparent similarity to humans ends. Archive Reflections. Human history is replete with how our species have prejudged one another by means of our external physical differences. Phenotype differences have been used as reasons for conflict among humanity. The shape of the eyes, the nose, the skull. All of these have been used to define away others from our common human species. But this is not the way it was in Terra Arcanis. What bound Arcanians together was the internal structure. Humanity might perceive their oneness as that of heart, mind, and spirit, often in opposition to the physical. But when an Arcanian says they were all unith velith sera, they meant something much more internally concrete. Part 2. The Cerealis Resonance. The Arcanians, as you can see from this anatomy diagram contained in the archives, are composed internally of 3 core centers. You see a lot more in this detailed chart, but let's not get stuck on those details. Look at the figure. Let's start at the top. There is something called Calithra. As we trace downward, then you'll come to what's called luminous core. And the further down just a little, the viral nexus. Let us look briefly what the archive tells us about each of these 3 centers within the Arcanian anatomy. We can see from this image that the Calithra is to Arcanians as the brain is to humans. Do you also notice that interpretation and meaning are key biological functions? Look further. We see the key terms interpretation and meaning, but we see one more key Arcanian function: alignment. And we can see this additional key term: state. Hold that term. Let's observe further down the Arcanian biological interior, the luminous core. Notice the Arcanians refer to this in their language as Sereth Velith. This term is for later refinement as we go deeper into the Arcanian being. But do you notice that term again? State? Archivists warn us not to define a thing before we are familiar with a thing. Let's move further down the Arcanian interior, where we find the viral nexus. Notice these are not organs like humans might have. The Arcanians call this the Calithra junction. Notice those terms again: interpretive, alignment. If we keep these terms in mind, interpretation, alignment, meaning, state, we will come to understand what more is revealed about Arcanians in the archive. Archive Reflections. Humans often understand the world through deduction and manipulation of information. We process what we encounter draw conclusions from it, and use those conclusions to reshape the world around us. Humans strive to conquer obstacles with understanding. Sometimes, that conquest of the world around us can be brutal. Arcanians appear to approach existence differently. They are beings of alignment. For them, interpretation is meaning received from the world around them. Adaptation through alignment, that is acceptance, is their preferred and usual mode of shaping their world. Part 3. Habitations. Where an entity dwells is as important as who they are. Let's journey deeper into the archive, discovering who Arcanians are by how they actually live. Let us examine this survey map of Terra Arcanis found in the archives. As we can see, Terra Arcanis has 10 population centers. Over the eons, archivists have supplied the archive with artistic renditions of some of these population centers. See this one? Harborstone, Aethrion, Valais, Civitate Concordia, Turris Virithae. From the archived images, what can we conclude about Arcanian habitations? Don't we see? Variety, an eye for splendor and the aesthetic. Dome structures are apparently very popular. Technological advancement. In the archive, we also find this. Arcanians call this the Valoran Highway, and you've seen it before in the maps that cut across Terra Arcanis. See it? Arcanians also called it the Aethra Resonance Highway. There's that word again, resonance. We'll come back to the archive to discover more about resonance soon. But let us conclude this journey by pulling this file from the archive. Virelis, the Personal Resonance Transport Vessel. Notice that this is a family vehicle. We can see that Arcanians are family-oriented too. And how they move from place to place is built to accommodate those families. In the next episode, we will explore a well-known family that the archive reveals about Arcanian civilization. Episode 5, The Praetor Ultimus. Every civilization leaves behind echoes. Some are carved in stone, others survive only in memory. Welcome to Forgotten Worlds. I am Larry Johnson. Enter the archive and discover the worlds waiting to be remembered.